In this video, I want to talk a little bit about the dark arts. Um, so we know right now we're hearing about the good guys and the bad guys. And for any of you who have done any research or looked into the quote bad guys, the globalist elites who um, are basically using um, this uh, this illness that's going around and using everything that they can and using the fake news and the mass media to try to get into the minds of other people. You may have also read a little bit about some of the Holly weird things that go on and some of the kind of dark uh, uh, R word. I don't want I don't want to say that word because I don't want to get like any flags on this video. So anybody doing anything that's obscure to what goes along with modern happy, healthy, pure goodness would be. So you probably at this point understand what I'm trying to say. What I want to tell you about this, because I've brought it up in a few other videos, is that these people who are involved in this and who are behind, the bad guys, I would guess I will say the globalist elites and the other people have talked about this, and then they say the satanic type of issues that are going on, and potentially there are, the bad aliens that are involved as well. And let's be honest, there's also bad spirits from other realms that are involved. Some people would call those spirits demonic, which, that's the best way to describe them. So if you have been listening to all of this and following all of this and you wonder what it's about, I can tell you that part of the reason that the psyops issues that the mainstream media and the global elites are having and will have and will continue to have is they do not have the pureness of heart. So therefore they cannot project onto the minds of others truth. Let's just put it that way. And the reason that they cannot do this is because their minds themselves are very weak. These individuals that are presenting the darkness to this world and trying to control the masses of this world have very, very weak minds. And the reason that they are trying to manipulate the rest of humanity with such weak minds is that they are easily manipulated and controlled themselves by these dark forces, by these negative aliens and these demonic spirits from these other realms that are coming through and able to manipulate them and therefore put them in these positions of power because of their minds being so weak and feeble. Then they are easily able to be a mouthpiece just for one reason or another. Potentially, they had money. They were in a bloodline of human race that had money or power in some form. But again, they have very weak minds. So they have to have a psyops team that will work for them. They cannot do this themselves. So if you can get into their minds, and this is the video I've done before about the psyops, if you get into these minds of these feeble-minded beings, then you are now playing with the other dark forces that are in the minds also of these feeble-minded beings. However, again, these are very weak-minded individuals. They do not They cannot think for themselves if they were to left. If we wiped out all of the, let's just say, if we wiped out all of the darkness and all of the evil was taken away and all of the bad aliens were vanished and these people were left to their own independent thoughts, they would no longer be able to live on their own. They would fall because their minds are so weak and feeble. That is partly why they do the things they do, and that is what um this is why they will use pureness of innocence of other beings, so children and innocent animals, for their ritualistic purposes. They do this because that is therefore giving them the essence of thought and spirit that they need to allow them to then present themselves in that innocent way. If hopefully that will make sense to some of you and you'll understand it, but that is partly why they do it. Now the beings behind them, so they're doing that as a physical representation, right? Because of the fleshly, because of the spiritual coming into the fleshly realm of this physical 3D density on this planet. Now the beings behind them, who are the negative beings, who are, basically talking through them, they don't necessarily need that because they're dealing with the ethereal, spiritual, emotional thought world. They're dealing in a different, they're not dealing in the flesh, they're dealing in the mind. And so when I talk about the psyops that is going on, when I talk about the mind control and the telepathy and the remote viewing and all of that, I am telling you that the beings who are controlling these elitists, who actually are feeble-minded people, humans, that are being puppeteered by these evil things, those evil things understand the spiritual and the telepathy and the mind. They understand that realm really well. They'll work in things like dreams, they'll work in things like fear tactics, manipulation of the media, as we can see, speaking disinformation and delusion, and they try to cast fake story narratives, and put a spell over as many as they can catch into their spell net of illusion of fear that they can. Now, those who can see through this and who do not buy into the fakeness of what the reality that they're trying to cast, will now be basically against them. And that's why you're also seeing so many people being targeted who have supported the president, that we have right now, President Trump that we have right now. You're seeing a lot of people being targeted because they have seen through this illusion. The dark beings that sit behind the elite puppets know that. And now they're trying to use their mind control puppets, not just in these global elitists, which they used to be able to use the global elitists to trick us all. Well, thank goodness that all is being revealed and we are waking up and we are seeing through it. Those who are waking up and seeing through it are now a target, basically, for these dark beings because they're like, all right, now these people have minds that cannot be controlled and we have to target them. So we will utilize the force of the minds who can be controlled to then try to target and harm the minds who cannot be controlled. And that's what's going on in our reality right now. And that's why there is the good and the bad. That's why this is a spiritual warfare between the good and the evil. And that's why I'm saying this is a psyops war. This is no longer in the flesh per se. I mean, there is still some of that, but the flesh has played out. And I think that they know that. They've used that in the past. That's what these rituals were for. That's what stealing the innocence from these beautiful little children and beautiful precious animals and precious children. That was all trying to maintain their secrets and, taking the innocence of the flesh and pushing it outward so that they could use that. Well, that's no longer working because too many mass minds have now seen through that fear tactic and that manipulation, and we're on to that and we know it and we're after them. And so the hunter becomes the hunted. In this case, that is what has happened already. It's already happened. The hunter has already become the hunted. They were the hunters, and now we have caught on to them, and they are now the hunted. They know this. And so in my understanding of this, and the message that I have gotten and the message that I have been giving back to the dark entities is, go ahead with the fear, with the flesh, because this is not in the flesh anymore. And if you're trying to push this agenda, these dark entities, I want to let this be known to any dark entities, any dark AI, any evil elites, that if you are trying to push a fear of flesh, you have a very weak mind, because flesh is limited. We know this. We know how limited this flesh is. And if you cannot compete on a mental basis and you have to use flesh for your competition, then you're in the wrong realm. Because I'm sorry, but not sorry, the humans have gained a lot of ground in moving into the 5D. We are moving into the 5D and we are no longer playing in your 3D world. So the flesh and the fear tactics are no longer going to prevail. So don't even start this unless you have a strong enough mind to move it forward, because there are a lot of very beautiful, strong-minded humans, and we will be using our telepathy and our beautiful minds to let you know that you're done here. We are removing your grid of fear. We are removing your grid of this control tactic that you have over this planet, and there will be no more of this. And if you cannot compete in our mind space, then you are no longer welcome, because we are no longer in the mind space of the flesh and the 3D. We are now in the mind space of the 5D, and we will call to you and say, come play in this space and see if your tactics work here, because we will not allow this, and we will not allow the fear, and we will not allow the hate. And we do not believe that your minds are strong enough to be able to push through the love and the beautiful agenda that is going to move our humanity into the next evolution space. So that is my statement, and that is what's going on right now. That is why there is such a strong war, is because we are now moving from a 3D into a 5D. We are doing that against these dark forces who have been trying to use the 3D flesh for too long for their gain, and it's no longer working, because we are beautiful beings of spirit that are moving towards a better future.